Hello, good day everyone. My name is Judently Escanepe and my topic is all about geological works of rivers, winds, and the importance of rivers. So these are the terms that we will encounter as we go through this topic, which is all about work of rivers. The first term that I will tackle is the attrition. So what is attrition? Attrition is the process of erosion that occurs during rock collision and transportation. Okay, just remember the keyword for attrition, which is the rock collision. Okay, I'll give you an example for attrition. For example, when rocks carried by the river knock against each other, they break apart to become smaller and more rounded. Next is the solution. Solution occurs when the soluble part of rocks and sediments dissolve into the river. For example, minerals that are dissolved in the water and carried along in solution. Next term is the abrasion. It is a process of erosion. It occurs when materials carried by the river wear away the riverbanks and bed. Next is the hydraulic action. It occurs when the shearing force of water hits the riverbanks, causing the rocks and sediments to crack and break apart. I will show you an image for you to picture out the attrition, abrasion, hydraulic action, and solution. The next term is suspension. It is a process where fine materials such as clay and sediments is carried by the river. Next term is the traction. It occurs when the large stones and boulders in a river are rolled along the riverbed. And for the saltation, it occurs when small stones and pebbles are bounced along the riverbed. The last term that I will tackle under the work of rivers is the deposition. It is a process where material being transported by a river is deposited. For example, when a river enters an ocean or lake, velocity slows down and deposition happens. Just remember that deposition occurs when a river loses energy.
Hello everyone. In this video we're going to be looking at erosional processes. These processes occur both along the coastline and also in rivers. They're exactly the same, so you don't need to double learn them. Now, in this case we're going to be looking at them occurring along a coast and coming into contact with a cliff. So when the waves come in and they hit a cliff, and I've drawn the cliff over here and also the waves, the first type of erosional process that you get is called abrasion. This is tiny little particles that are found inside the wave, and they hit and they collide with the base of the cliff and they cause a wave cut notch to appear. It's kind of like sandblasting. Number two, this one is attrition. In attrition you have these jagged large rocks that they roll and they collide with each other, and what happens is that they knock off the rough edges and they become smaller and they get eroded down. This is attrition. Number three, we have hydraulic action. Hydraulic action is actually the force of the wave and does two things. The force of the wave comes into contact with the cliff, and the repeated hitting against the cliff causes erosion because of the energy that it has. And in addition to that, it will also hit these gaps they have inside the cliff, and it will push air inside, compressing it, expanding the crack, and enhancing the weakness. So, quick recap. As you can see at the bottom, I'm writing down what these are very, very briefly. Abrasion is small particles that are thrown against the cliff. Attrition is the wearing down of rocks to become smaller and rounder. Hydraulic action is all about the force of the wave and the compression of the air inside various weaknesses and cracks. And there is one more. Solution. Can't really draw this one unfortunately on the diagram. It's literally the dissolving of rock due to kind of like the mild acidic properties that water have. And these are the four types of erosion. Thank you very much. Have a great day.
Now, let's talk about the work of winds. The Earth is surrounded with envelope of gases, which is called the atmosphere. The movement of the atmosphere in a parallel direction to the surface of the Earth is the wind. Now, I will discuss the three processes of wind: the erosion, transportation, and deposition. What is erosion? Erosion is a natural process that moves soil from one location to another by wind power. Now, let's talk about the two terms under the erosion, which are the deflation and abrasion. Now, let's talk about deflation. What is deflation? It is a process where wind simply removes loose sand and dust-sized particles from an area, while abrasion is a process of wearing away of a solid object due to the impact of particles carried by wind. Now let's talk about transportation, which is one of the three processes of wind. Transportation is a process where wind brings particles and transport or move it to other areas. Under the transportation, we have the bed load and suspended load. Bed load is the process where large and heavier particles are moved by winds, but not lifted more than 30 to 60 centimeters. While for the suspended load, lighter substances are lifted by the moving winds. Now, let's move to the other process of wind, which is the deposition. Deposition is the process where sediments are dropped and deposited. Sand dunes, a hill of sand near an ocean or in a desert that is formed by winds. Now, I will show a video about work of winds to further understand the topic.
During the period known as the Dust Bowl in the 1930s, the Great Plains of the United States were devastated by drought. Wind erosion loosened dry soil, resulting in huge dust storms. How did wind erosion result in such a devastating impact on the region's ecology and agriculture? Wind erosion is a natural process that detaches soil particles from one area of the land surface and transports it to another location where it is deposited. Air movement results in winds that are strong enough to transport particles of soil and sand. Wind erosion can move only small particles, so it is most prevalent in dry areas. In dry soils, there is less water to hold surface particles together. Deserts and drought areas are particularly affected by wind erosion. The impact can be especially severe when the soil is exposed by the removal of vegetation. Once set in motion, transported particles of sand and soil can worsen the effect of wind erosion. Deflation results from erosion of loose material, which can lower the land surface. Deflation results in a surface comprised only of coarse-grained fragments, called desert pavement. There are different types of wind erosion, distinguished by the way particles move. In suspension, the wind moves fine particles through the atmosphere parallel to the surface and into the atmosphere. The particles fall to Earth only when the wind subsides. Saltation occurs when small particles bounce along Earth's surface. The impact dislodges additional particles. With soil creep, larger soil and sand particles roll along the surface of the Earth's crust. Such wind erosion has resulted in a variety of landforms. As soil particles move, they abrade surfaces. Friction between the soil particles and land surface results in abrasion, wearing down the surface. The strange-shaped sculptures we see in deserts are created by abrasion. The process of wind erosion involves detachment, transport, and deposition of soil particles. These particles are deposited when wind speed drops, resulting in sediment layers called aeolian deposits. A loess is an aeolian sediment that is formed by the accumulation of wind-blown silt. Sand dunes are the best-known type of aeolian depositional landforms. Dunes form when sand transported by wind accumulates, often around an obstacle such as a rock or tree. Although it is a natural process, wind erosion threatens agriculture around the world, particularly in dry regions. Dust storms diminish air quality and negatively impact health and the economy.
Let's move to the importance of rivers. River is one of the biggest source of fresh water. Rivers carry water and nutrients to areas all around the earth. Rivers provide excellent habitat and food for many organisms of the earth.